Welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I am Michael Pinter. I teach you how to start flipping and wholesaling houses in New York, or if you're already doing it, how to grow your business. Whatever. All right, it is what it is. So I had a question. Can a seller back out of a purchase agreement? So let's talk about what a purchase agreement is. In some states, they call it a purchase agreement. Some states, they call it a purchase and sale agreement. In New York, we call it a contract. And the answer is, can a seller back out? Now, really, for most of my career in flipping houses, I did it in New York, and it wasn't even an issue because in New York it's harder. We're going to talk about why it's almost impossible in New York. But in other states, this is a big deal because in other states, really 49 states, the way it works is that you get into contract with some kind of contingency to get out, and if you find a buyer, you don't want to come back to find out that the seller backed out of the contract, right? Out of the purchase agreement. So what is done in a lot of states is that you do something to protect yourself. You can record the contract with the title company. Some states you record an affidavit of contract. Some states you record a memorandum of contract. And what this should do is cloud title, so that when a title company, and the idea is that, hey, I'm offering X, the seller may get a better deal from a different investor, and he may then say, screw you, get out of the contract and sell it to somebody else. If you record the contract or record any of those documents that I just discussed, what could happen is that a title company goes and sees this recording and goes, hey, we got a problem, we have to deal with this. Now, it's not a foolproof system, but it does help. I know a lot of people that do business in a lot of states, and they do this, and very often they'll get not very often, but occasionally they will get a call and say, hey, remember this property? There's this affidavit of a contract on here, and then he will say, for $5,000, $10,000, I'll let it go. And you'll make some money that you maybe would have made if you would have bought the property or wholesale the property, so assigned the contract to somebody else. Now, what's important is that it's not a foolproof system, right? Because some title companies don't care. Some situations where the guy cannot sell to anybody, and that won't help you at all. You can sell it after you're dead, it doesn't matter. But in New York, and this is the part that's, I'm sorry, some background noise. In New York, the seller cannot back out of the contract, right? So the only reason the seller can back out of a contract in New York is if there's some kind of title issue. So usually, what kind of title issues could come up? A lien that they didn't know about. So maybe they have a $1 million lien and they're selling your house for $100,000. They're not planning to bring $1 million to the table to pay off the lien. Or sometimes there's if a seller inherited a property and the probate process hasn't gone through, and maybe there are other heirs that need to get involved. I'm going through a nightmare situation right now. Property in Hempstead, and there's a lot of dead people involved, and I got to get a lot of affidavits heirship affidavits from a lot of the children and siblings and things. That happens a lot. So that's another title issue that can stop. So if I can't sell it to you. And usually the buyer's going to say, no problem, I can't buy it and be out. But in New York, the way it works with contracts, the way standard contracts are written, if a seller changes his mind and says, hey, I'm sorry, I don't want to sell to you, or I want to sell to somebody else, you as a buyer have a very, very, very strong legal position. You can file a list pendants against the property, which is the same as if he was in foreclosure from his mortgage holder, and that means, in essence, he cannot sell to anyone. That's much better than clouding title. That is just obliterating title. He'll never be able to sell to anybody else. And you can also sue the seller for specific performance, which means for the entire purchase price. So I'm buying a house for $400,000, I could sue him for the entire $400,000. And guess what? You will win. It may cost some money for litigation, but and the better part of it, because some people in other states don't understand how it works, the seller is represented by an attorney. So the seller's going to call his attorney and say, can I get out of this contract? And then the seller's attorney is going to go, absolutely not. So I've had situations where sellers have called me and said, decided not to sell to you, or decided to sell to somebody else. I said, just call your attorney. Right? And they always call back the same day, next day, 2 days later, and say, when can we close? You have no way out in New York from a seller. And that's a huge advantage in New York. People don't realize it. It's a tremendous, tremendous advantage in New York over the other states. That seller cannot back out of a contract in New York. In other states, it's really easy to get into contract. A contract happens between a buyer and a seller. I want to buy, you want to sell, I pull out a contract, we sign a contract, we're in contract in theory. No, legally we're in contract, and not in theory, sorry. But in New York, the whole contract process takes place between the seller's attorney who generates the contract and the buyer's attorney, and they negotiate over it. And while it's a huge pain in the butt compared to the other states to get into contract, it is impossible for a seller to get out of contract. And that is a huge advantage to doing business in New York. I didn't realize there were buses coming by that street back there. I apologize. So it's a huge advantage. There are a lot of advantages to doing business in New York, but one of them is the fact that once you're in contract, seller's not getting out. So that is great. Now, in other states, because it's easy to get into contract, it's easy for the seller to get out of the contract. The seller calls you up and says, I don't want to close. You maybe have an option if you did cloud title, even if you did record the contract or an affidavit of contract or a memorandum of contract, however it works in your county. You can't say to the seller, no, you need to close. All you could say is, well, I recorded something, you're obligated, and when you go to try to sell the property again, you're going to have to come back to me. You could say that, but the seller can say, drop dead. And it's not a foolproof system, but it is a good system, and I recommend it when you do business in other states to do something like that. But you have to talk to your title company about what really could cloud title in your county. It's not so simple. It's different everywhere. Okay, we're 6 minutes into a 10-minute video, so what else are we going to talk about? So here's a couple things that you should do to get a seller to not back out of a contract. Right? You need to have a lot of open communication with the seller about what's going to take place next. So in New York, I believe this concept of planting these seeds. So I plant 3 seeds in a seller's mind when I go to contract. And I say, listen, number one, the standard EMD, the standard earnest money deposit in New York is 10%. I'm involved in a lot of transactions. If I put 10% down on every transaction, I'd be out of business. So I just want to tell you, I'm going to put down $5,000, $10,000, which, by the way, in other states is an exorbitantly high amount. But in New York, you got to put something serious down. So the first thing is you got to plant the seed about the size of the deposit. The second thing you have to do is plant the seed about assignability, because the standard contract in New York is not assignable. Absolutely not. Zero. Clause 26 in the contract says no assignability. So you got to explain to your seller that you need it assignable if you're planning on assigning it. And I usually say something like, listen, I deal with a lot of other partners, investors. I need the ability to change the entity that we're going to buy it in at the last minute. I need it fully assignable. And then the third thing I say, listen, I'm going to need to show it. I'm going to need to show the property to contractors and potential buyers so they can give me an idea of what I'm going to tell the contractors to do. And I need some time to show it, at least 1 or 2 showings. So I plant those seeds. Now, I can tell you that almost no seller remembers any of that, right? Well, they don't really care. And what happens is they don't tell their attorney. The attorney sends out a standard contract to my attorney, which asks for 10% deposit, is not assignable, doesn't have any language about showing it, and what happens is my attorney comes back to them and says, hey, we agreed on a deposit of $5,000, $10,000, and we agreed on it being assignable, and we want to show it. And that attorney, the seller's attorney, then goes back to his client and says, hey, the guys are asking for all these things. And then the seller remembers the conversation we had and goes, yeah, those things are all fine, we discussed it. That's much better than not having that discussion with the seller, and then the seller's attorney calling the seller and saying, I don't know if these guys are real. They're asking for it to be assignable, they're asking for a very low deposit, and they want to show it. I think they might be flipping it. And then the seller gets a bad vibe, and the seller's like, yeah, I don't know if it's real either. Maybe we shouldn't sell to these guys. So you want to plant those seeds after a seller agrees to your price before the contract's signed. Again, there is that period of time in New York. In the other 49 states, there is no period of time. Somebody agrees to your price in 49 states, you just go to contract, right? You sign it in 2 seconds. DocuSign. I just did it in another state. Sent out a DocuSign, and I was in contract. It's great. But there is usually a significant gap, 1, 2, sometimes 4 weeks between when a seller agrees to your price and when you're actually in contract in New York. And this is something nobody talks about, right? This is that gap period. And you got to be on top of things, because sometimes things get screwed up and deals do get die for stupid reasons during that period of time. So it's important to be in touch, important to plant those seeds. I hope this was helpful. If you're interested in all the ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you're interested in a course I have that teaches how to do what I do, go to howtoflipnewyorkcourse.com. If you are interested in finding out more about one-on-one coaching I offer, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on any media channel, please click the thumbs up. The likes really help me. And please keep the comments coming. I post 5 times a week, although I think I missed last week, so only 4 times, but I try, and I'm not going to say try is a bad word. I post 5 times a week, with rare exception, and I don't always know what to talk about. So the comments help me. So you can comment on anything. It doesn't even have to be about the video you're watching. And if it's a simple answer, I'll just reply. If it's something I've covered before, I'll send you a link to a video. And if it's something new or something I haven't covered in a long time, I will do a new video on it. So thank you very, very much for watching. And this says my internet was restored, which is not a good sign. So hopefully this wasn't too laggy.